Good afternoon and welcome to this month's show. I'm Luke McCormack. During today's show, we will discuss best practices with IT modernization programs and strategies in the federal government. With me on today's show are Nancy Seeger, Chief Information Officer, Internal Revenue Service; Jamie Holcomb, Chief Information Officer, U.S. Patent and Trademark Office; Soldenise Sejour, Chief Information Officer, Office of Intelligence Analysis at DHS; Nicholas Spees, Chief Federal Technologist at Snowflake; Nick Saki, Principal Technology Strategist, Pure Storage; and John Harris, Executive Director at Federal Civilian Verizon. IT modernization, we always like to say, when we modernize, we fulfill two important points. Focus on the delivery to the community, to the citizen, to the soldier, to the Navy, your operator. And of course, we also can secure that environment when we modernize. Nancy, you've been at it for a while over there. I know you've had a long, extensive career at the IRS, now as the Chief Information Officer, formerly for a year and longer than that, as I understand. A lot of activity going on during the pandemic while you're modernizing, et cetera. Give us a state of the state.
Hey, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm thrilled to be here. I hope that by the end of this program, you get a sense that we've made significant progress at the Internal Revenue Service. I think all of us could say that in government, IT has been the difference between keeping an agency going to provide mission essential services or falling behind. I'm so proud of what our team at the IRS has accomplished, and I really enjoy any chance to share. You know, the undeniable truth about today's world is that we're more virtual, more connected, and more dependent on technology than we've ever been before. We're leading what you might call a digital journey across the Internal Revenue Service. For context, let me start by saying that customer service is such an important part of the Internal Revenue Service mission. People need to be able to reach us, and they need to know that we're operating in a secure environment, knowing that the IRS is a prime target for fraud and cyber criminals. Over the last few years, we've had significantly transformed our customer experience. The story I want to share today is about our contact centers. The Internal Revenue Service gets about 50 million calls on our toll-free lines every year, 50 million. In addition to the story I want to talk about on our telephone lines, I just want to share a few sound bites on what we've accomplished in that space. We've instilled customer callback for over 70% of our toll-free lines. We've created a robust online account experience where you can practically service all of your needs with the Internal Revenue Service online. We reacted quickly to mandates that strengthened the U.S. economy during the most critical time of the pandemic. And we developed a strategy for using voice and chat bots to help people with basic and personalized information by providing our collection services through bots. The idea being that people who call the IRS wanting to give us money or resolve their tax bill should be able to get that service when they want it in real time. We focused on the right technology. We built the right foundation to grow with our future. Now, when people call the Internal Revenue Service, they don't necessarily have to wait for a human agent. And more importantly, we also made that automation available in both English and Spanish. In less than 2 years, we designed, procured, and built the infrastructure and deployed bots. Ultimately, the initial set of bots was successfully put in place for this filing season. In addition, when call volume skyrocketed last year, we also incorporated automated voice bot services for people calling about their economic impact payment, getting money into the economy when our people needed it the most. In just under 4 months, the voice bot we deployed on the economic impact payment telephone line interacted with about 6 million callers, and 3 out of 10 of those were resolved without the need to escalate for a human. You know, I could go on and on. I'll pause and turn it back to you, Luke, let somebody else jump in. But as you can tell, I'm very, very proud of the progress we've made in the customer experience space.
And you should be just brilliant capability there, staggering results and statistics that you're sharing with us. So thank you very much for that. Jamie, how about at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office? You all are on a journey over there. I know you're in a fail fast, sort of agile sort of mode. Tell us what's happening at U.S. Patent and Trademark Office.
Well, of course, coming out of the pandemic has been key for all of us. We want to get back to a sort of normal, but I do think culturally there is no normal. And in fact, what we're doing is we're setting the stage for the newness. We're not going to go back to the way it was, but we can't keep staying at home. And so because of that, this hybrid approach that we're taking to the newly designed functions within the intellectual property community, I mean, it is huge. You have to do the outreach. Just as Nancy was talking about, our customer base is the intellectual property community. We are fee funded. We don't take taxes. And so because of that, we have to open up our design criteria to that new world of intellectual property and how they are going to interface online. And it's really great. 1996, we digitized all that paper. However, in doing that, the digitalization of that workflow really was not optimized for the online experience. Instead, it was just modeled after a paper-based manual system. So in order to optimize, we really have to redo that workflow. And that's what we're in the middle of. We're trying to figure out how to make it more efficient for the customer, not for us. So often our websites and the things we throw up online represent the bureaucratic organizations that we've put together. At the PTO, what we're trying to do is break down those bureaucratic barriers and actually create it from the online experience, from that user community, from the fee payer. Because I have a fiduciary to ensure that that fee payer is getting the biggest bang for the buck. And so because of that, we're measuring our productivity in terms of pendency, the time it takes between submission and award or rejection, and also quality. How do you measure quality in patents? Well, it's pretty easy. If it's not rejected, then you have pretty good quality. The fact of the matter, there's a lot of things that go into court. We're actually a law and engineering based organization. We do everything through the scientific method. And so we can replicate that process, that thought, those algorithms through artificial intelligence and using robotic process automation to our advantage. So yes, fail fast, agile, DevSecOps, it's all included, but it all starts with that fee payer and reaching out and making sure that experience for those 6 personas that we've created is optimized for the online world.
Absolutely.
I'll turn it back to you.
Right. That just upping that user experience so important, particularly in this very sophisticated scientific environment that you're operating in. So Denise, I'd like you to start with, tell us what INA is, right? Some may know, some may not. Is that part of the IC? What is INA? And then tell us what you're up to up there. I know you've been out there just about a year as a Chief Information Officer. Congratulations on that appointment, by the way.
Thank you very much, Luke. Hello, it's good to see you. I'm very honored to be a part of this conversation this morning, and hello to all of the panel members this morning. So a couple of things. The Office of Intelligence and Analysis within the Department of Homeland Security is and represents the department as an IC or intelligence community element. So we are a member of the intelligence community. And we are the only IC or intelligence community element that is statutorily charged with sharing intelligence data with our state, local, tribal, territorial, and private sector partners. Within the department, we lead and oversee the department's intelligence enterprise, making sure that we share and enable the intelligence mission for the department. And as well, we bridge the gap between the department and the intelligence community. So that's what the Office of Intelligence and Analysis is positioned to do to support our Homeland Security mission. A couple of things that we've been working on in terms of IT modernization, it really encompasses a whole lot within the IT space. But a specific area that we've been focusing on also to the point that Jamie's making and Nancy's making is that customer experience. So really focusing on modernizing our intelligence systems so that we can enhance the user experience and enhance our ability to share that intelligence data with all of our customers. A couple of exciting projects that we've been working on this past year. We are the technical service provider for the National Vetting Center that is led out of CBP. So we've been able to modernize the primary system that they use for their screening and vetting. We've also worked to modernize our key system, our primary system that our Intel analysts use to share finished intelligence products. And this is on the classified side. And we've also been, we operationalized this past year what we call our top secret data hub, basically a data warehouse that stores gold copies of DHS data that enables several major programs that we support throughout the department, but also enables intelligence sharing under the purview of information sharing agreements with our partners throughout the intelligence community as well. And finally, a most recent project that we've been working on that we are very excited about is the DHS Intelligence mobile app for INA. So I'll pause there. Really excited about all of the fun things that we're doing, IT modernization and becoming more agile. So really excited on all the things that the team is doing. My team has been really successful considering all the challenges that have been brought on with the pandemic. Over to you, Luke.
Thank you very much. A lot of moving parts. I know it's very sophisticated. You know, you're dealing with the IC on sort of the high side, if you will, all the way down to the state and locals. Tricky business trying to keep all that separated and make sure that information gets out to a wide swath of community members. Nicholas, there's a whole bunch of data being collected, needs to be analyzed. I know that Snowflake is right in the middle of helping these agencies and bureaus really make the best use of that data. Tell us about what's happening.
Yeah, thanks, Luke, and good afternoon to everybody. You know, what I take away from hearing the last couple of folks sort of share their thoughts on where their agencies are, the thing that sticks in my mind most is you asked about IT modernization, and what you actually got were outcomes. So everybody who's consuming those services, consuming that IT infrastructure, that's really what folks are focused on. And that's exactly what we want to hear, right? We want people to be focused on the outcomes and not necessarily the tools that get us there. Although the tools are also equally important. I think over the last 4 or 5 minutes, we've talked about a data hub. We've talked about data collaboration across agencies. We've talked about sharing information, sharing data. These challenges are never going to go away. We've seen it in a huge uptick ever since the pandemic kicked off, where agencies had to collaborate. We had to collaborate, not just government agency to government agency, but also the government to private industry, trying to grab and get vaccines shipped out to where they had to be, trying to get medical resources where they needed to be. All of this was based on data collaboration and sharing across agencies. And it's wonderful to hear in context with government speakers that this is at the top of their mind and that the outcomes are being focused on. I think for Snowflake, we're 100% inside of that mix. We're working with government agencies to help them collaborate and share with data. That's the core technology of Snowflake, is to focus on that these days with the data cloud. So I'm always excited to hear government speakers talking about outcomes and talking about data collaboration, mostly because that's the one thing I'm best suited for, Luke.
And a big shift over the last few years, and it was a very good catch there, Nick. We're collecting all this information. We have to store it properly. We need to do it efficiently. We need to be able to retrieve it. It needs to be secure. Tell us how Pure Storage is fitting into this.
Well, thanks, Luke. Obviously, data is, the reason why we exist, and data service infrastructure providing scale, simplicity, and, as you mentioned, security, as well as sustainability. So the challenge that we're seeing a lot of our customers deal with is, of course, data continues to grow, data holdings continue to grow at an extraordinarily accelerated rate. And we are working diligently to address the need to provide obviously higher capacity storage capability, but also the speed with which that data can be leveraged. So the thought trap that we get into is that it's storage, but in truth, it's data service. So how readily can we leverage the customer's ability to make the most out of the data that they've got, to gain the insights and understanding, to deliver the outcomes that their agencies hope to achieve. And to that end, we've been creating systems that have new and modernized protocols, larger capacity systems, higher performance memory. And then the really essential part is, how do you move your data? How do you leverage it? How do you get it where you want it in the infrastructure environment that you desire, so that cross-platform connectivity, or I should say cross-infrastructure connectivity between on-premises data service infrastructure and cloud-based capability has also been at the core of what we've been implementing in order to facilitate the capacity for digital transformation for our customers. So we're trying to create a boundaryless infrastructure wherein you get to focus primarily on the application deployment and the customer or user experience, without really having to pay very much regard to, is this on premises? Is this in the cloud? Which cloud service provider is it in? What region is it operating in? How do we move the data seamlessly so that agencies can focus on their mission and their activities and not plumbing and maintenance?
Absolutely. Needs to be accessible, needs to be affordable, needs to be secure. John, we also need to get to it, and we need to be able to transport it, et cetera. And Verizon's right smack in the middle of that. A brilliant job during the pandemic and going forward. Tell us about how you're fitting into this ecosystem and enabling all these rich capabilities to happen.
Yeah, thanks, Luke, and good afternoon. I appreciate being part of the panel, and really, really great comments from everybody so far. I love, Nancy, what you said is that technology has been the thing that has helped us get through, the last couple of years in this pandemic. We talk about modernization, and I think it's important we kind of reframe the modernization discussion. Excuse me, modernization is not necessarily an end journey. It is the journey itself. We will be on the modernization path for a number of years to come. It's this continuous effort to modernize and continue to evolve the technologies that are helping us to meet the challenges of today. So to your point, Luke, and to the point of a number of the panelists are making already, we need access to information, and we need access to information in new places and in new ways. So a couple of things I think that Verizon has been working diligently on that we're very proud of is, number one, everybody is in the middle of a migration to a new contract vehicle. So the EIS vehicle is certainly, in flux. We're moving as many folks as we can to that contract as quickly as we can, and it will provide an incredible, suite of services to really help push the modernization efforts forward, to drive secure connections, to drive more access to information, to drive new and evolving technologies, I think, to help many, many agencies really meet the mission and help to support some significant outcomes. I think the other thing that I would be remiss if I didn't touch on is 5G. As we think more and more about a mobile world and being in a hybrid environment, to Jamie's point earlier, we need access to higher bandwidth solutions. We need access to more IoT-driven solutions, more smart connectivity, so that we can share data, we can move information to places where we can more easily access it, and we can make better decisions. So not just the network itself, but also increasing application performance, increasing the speed with which we can get to that data, and how securely it is managed at the edge is really important, and something we put a lot of effort into with machine edge compute. And all of this is wrapped around customer experience. One of the things that I think is the most important goal for us in 2022 and beyond is, how are we impacting end user experience for our agencies and for the folks on this call? And then also, how are we impacting citizen experience and making that engagement and that interaction easier? And we're excited for that challenge and ready to jump in.
Right. A lot of plumbing behind the scenes, but at the end of the day, it's about what is that customer experience. So glad that you've been able to focus on that. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We are talking about IT modernization. Just laid out a sort of a state of the state of a wide swath of activities going on across these various agencies. I'm going to go back to you, Soldenise, and ask you to highlight a specific program that you would like to focus on.
Sure. Thanks, Luke. So I mentioned this briefly earlier. One of the things that we're really excited about, and this is not just from an IT or CIO perspective, but also from a product owner partnership perspective and mission, our operators, a lot of excitement behind the first ever DHS intelligence mobile app. During the pandemic, it really caused us to think outside the box in terms of sharing our intelligence data. Most of our work is done on the classified fabrics. So we had to really shift, and we were able to do that with the technology that our department CIO provides to us on the unclassified side. But that also got us thinking, how can we change the user experience in terms of the unclassified side and how we most efficiently and effectively share timely intelligence with our state and local, tribal, territorial, and private sector partners. So we had a vision. We wanted to develop a mobile app solution for our partners. We wanted to change that user experience and do intelligence sharing a little bit differently from the way that we've been doing it for the past 15 plus years. So we actually, this was a good example of unity of effort and the power of partnering. We actually partnered with our department CIO team, and we partnered with our mission as well to come up with exactly what was needed from a user mission perspective that enabled us to develop the first mobile app for INA. So that's been a really, really exciting project that we've been working on. It also, like I said, highlights the power of partnering and changes our user experience, not just within the department's intelligence enterprise or within the intelligence analysts that are federal employees of the Office of Intelligence and Analysis, but it changes the experience for our customers, our partners at the state, local, tribal, territorial, and private sector, and really works to change that user experience and strengthen our ability to share timely intelligence.
Fantastic use case. And again, I just have to highlight that broad swath of user base that you have to account for there. Hard enough to just keep it inside the bubble in the IC, if you will, on the high side, to bring that all the way down to the private sector. Incredible capability, no doubt, with the mobile technology. So thank you very much for that. Nick, how about at Pure Storage? I know there's a lot of activity going on. You're striped across so many of these agencies. Give us an example of a program you'd like to highlight and raise awareness to for the listening audience.
Sure thing, Luke. We have been very, very fortunate to support all of the agencies on this call, as a matter of fact. Mm-hmm. And what we have been successful in helping to do is understanding the vision for the transformation and the path to the future, and providing the fundamental underlying capabilities to deliver that in a novel cost model. So acquiring technology is easy. You spend a lot of money, it gets deployed into your data center, rinse and repeat every 3 to 5 years. And it's a cycle that will break the budgets of most organizations. It's also problematic from the perspective of what you spec'd 3 years ago that you finally acquire 3 years later is oftentimes, from our perspective, an obsolete piece of equipment. 18 months later, you get that deployed on your data center floor, and lo and behold, it's obsolete now too. And this endless cycle of continuing technical debt has been breaking the backs of government agencies. So in addition to being able to deliver cutting edge technology, being able to sustain it and carry it forward and modernize it in place non-disruptively at a flat fixed cost has fundamentally changed how our customers are able to acquire, deploy, and then sustain at a predictable cost basis in perpetuity. And the short version is the technology gets better, the agency capacity gets bigger, but the cost basis doesn't increase over time. And that's been incredibly effective and successful. But the secondary piece of that is the technology is an enabler for greater capacity and better security. So modernized systems start to have a lot of inherent security capability and data protection capability built in, but they also provide better connectivity to new and evolving IT architectures, applications, application baselines, things like DevSecOps and Kubernetes are fundamentally different than our legacy technologies, but the underlying infrastructure needs to be able to provide the adaptation of new and emerging technologies. So these are all the reasons why we've been tremendously proud to be chosen to support these agencies by giving them the ability and the assurance that whatever they want to do in the future is already inherently in the system or will be in the system and implemented without any disruption or without any increasing cost.
Almost a reference to Moore's law there and the ability to collect, retrieve, store, secure data and share it and make it available. Interesting and very important. Nancy, it is tax season. And there's a lot of stuff going on over there. I know you're continue to modernize. You've got such a massive user population that you're dealing with. Give us an example. You top line some of these programs you're working on. Give us an example of one. Maybe you can go a little bit deeper on a program you'd like to highlight.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. I first want to share that, one of the biggest transformations within the Internal Revenue Service is not about getting to modernization. It's about being a modernized shop and how we work. And we've had lots of program examples. I'll give you a few in a minute. But for me, the greatest success in modernization is driving our culture to a culture of being modernized. We've talked previously in the program about the plumbing. That is not exciting, right? But as a CIO, some of our greatest challenges are to have a current plumbing, a strong foundation, so that we can churn out the services. The IRS IT shop, as you said, Luke, is big. It's moving fast. We make change happen, and we're, in the public eye to support the country. And talking to my CIO peers across government, so many of us share the feeling that the pandemic, again, has underscored the importance of modernization. We've made a lot of progress focusing on strong foundations. We focused on resiliency to ensure that our systems are available when our customers need them. We've improved our customer experience through our toll-free lines that I talked about before. We've become an agile shop and delivered new websites and new online services in less than 3 months, like we did last year with the Advanced Child Tax Credit, in a multilingual, online, and mobile fashion. There's such a misconception around information technology at the IRS being dated. You probably see the headlines about Kennedy's era technology. Like all big IT shops, we have legacy systems that we're maintaining, and where funding permits, we modernize them. While the agency was on the cutting edge in the 60s, or so I'm told, with the adoption of automated data processing and the development of the IMF, we've been accused of being stuck in that era for a long time. I have the pleasure occasionally of visiting our computing centers, mostly giving congressional delegations tours, and you'd be surprised at how modern our computing centers are. And I'd love to come back in a couple of years and tell you that our computing centers have progressed even more with both on-prem and cloud foundations. A couple of years ago, we published our modernization plan, and we outlined lots of initiatives to improve the customer experience. And while we executed on that plan, often replanning with the funding that we received, we delivered a host of other upgrades and new experiences. So, what are we most proud of? The fact that we've been able to continue to deliver more services to our customers while building that strong foundation so that we can genuinely be agile and increase our velocity even before we're asked.
Right. You got to have that underlying capability so you can stack those things on top of it. And certainly IRS at the vanguard of modernization, you've been doing electronic filing for decades. So hats off to you, and in a very wide population. Going to go down to you, John. Give us an example, highlight a program that you would like to raise awareness to the listening audience about how you're enabling some of these capabilities to happen there at Verizon.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. There's so many examples, and I'm going to go to Plan B because Nancy talked a little bit about some of the contact center modernization that's happening in so many different agencies, which is such a great example of how we're really transforming the customer experience with callbacks, with bots, with some of the ability to now not have to get to an agent, not have to sit on hold for a number of minutes to be able to get your issue resolved. So what a great example of how we're helping a lot of agencies modernize. But another one that I'll touch on that I think is close to everyone is during the pandemic, everyone has had a need to get to their healthcare providers, and we haven't always had the opportunity to get to them in a physical setting. And so really proud of the work that Verizon has been able to do with the VA in providing access to some of these services and technologies to veterans across the country. We've been working with the Office of Connected Care now for a number of years. We've provided solutions via a mobile connection, a tablet device, to allow veterans across the country to be able to access their provider from the comfort of their own home. This is for regular visits, for checkups, and for sort of day-to-day activity. But it's also things that are really important in a pandemic, like suicide prevention, or being able to connect with a counselor, or just being able to connect with other veterans. So making sure that this experience is available, it's accessible, it's easy to use, and it's something that they can get access to on a regular basis is critically important. So the evolving platform that we're developing, the access to the technology, and then the inevitable deployment of more and more services to rural America to get more and more veterans access to these services has been critically important and something that we are very, very proud of. We're also working with the VA on innovating the future of healthcare. You may have read about some of our work over the past year with the VA, places like Palo Alto and others, where we've built the first 5G innovation lab inside of the hospital. So working with partners like Medivis and Microsoft to really create new and innovative ways for doctors to take care of patients, provide 3D and virtual reality imagery to be able to really identify what's happening and how do we best treat a patient as we go forward. So some things that you might think of as sort of future technologies that are being done today, and then basics like being able to visit your doctor in the home, a really, really incredible suite of solutions and things we're looking to continue to provide to veterans and others, and really help modernize the healthcare service and customer experience in that sector.
Customer experience being very key. We had VA on the other day. They said that 60-70% of the veterans say they absolutely want to maintain this virtual experience in these appointments. Jamie, let's go over to you and talk about patent and trade. Give us an example of an area that you're doing some modernization capability and enabling the customer base.
Well, I got to tell you, I love all the current answers because it's exactly along the same lines. But I will emphasize that the most important and significant modernization is not in the tools, it's in the head. Because the whole cultural thing, it's a mindset. So one of the cliches that I have within the organization is mission first, but people always. And so we always talk about people, process, and tools. The most important component of that is people. Now, can you have great processes and great tools? Of course, and you should. But as I was taught in the U.S. Army, you fight with what you got, not with what you want to have. And you don't bet the farm on emerging technologies when you haven't proven them out. The reason they're emerging is because they're new. They're not scalable yet. You haven't gone through the experience. Not to say that you can't scale up quickly if you find great benefit. And that seems to be the bureaucratic problem, the sense of urgency to get something out into the field, into the hands of people so that we can figure out how to scale. One of the greatest success stories in our modern battlefield was the ability to give technology to our lieutenants and captains in the field, in the desert, and then show how those information technology data sharing could actually help the battlefield and take advantage of different opportunities that people couldn't see before. In that same light, we are using artificial intelligence and really machine learning from big data analytics, training algorithms as an augmentation tool for our examiners. In other words, we're not letting the machines guide us, we are guiding the machines. And in this machine learning, we've been able to augment individual tools for individual examiners And that's out there. So it's the people first mentality of what does it really require? What tools do they need to make them more effective, more optimizing it across? Of course, we're going to go for better, cheaper, and faster. But at the same time, it has to be around that person. Mission first, people always. Back to you, Luke.
Absolutely, and a very good way to highlight the sort of the people, the culture part of this, if you will. Nicholas, let's talk about at Snowflake and give us an example of a program you'd like to highlight that you're enabling this ecosystem.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. I've got dozens, but I'll focus on one that I think is probably one of the coolest. Fraud, waste, and abuse is a massive problem in the federal government across
Absolutely.
every agency, every vertical. Everybody has to be conscious of it, look out for it, and handle it in the best way possible. And healthcare is no exception to that vertical. We've had a couple of customers over the years, large healthcare providers that want to eliminate as much fraud, waste, and abuse in their billing systems as they possibly can. And the world's largest healthcare provider is now on board as a Snowflake customer doing exactly that. But what's cool about it, it's not necessarily that it's done, it's how it's done. In the past, you would have something happen to you, you'd file a claim, and then at some point in the future, there would be a payout or payback. In the new modern world where we're building with this customer, we've got 50 other payers, providers that are then taking their records of what happened and how it happened, and they're sending it off into that central repository so that it can all be looked at by one person at one time. So, for example, we talk in cybersecurity all the time about two people trying to log in from two different places at the same time. Impossible, right? Can't happen. So this is a lot the same thing. You can't have a knee replacement in Florida and California at the same exact time. But if you have to do that, if you put both of those claims in today, they will both be paid out, and then we have to claw the money back. Why? Just use data sharing. When you see that transaction on the West Coast and you see it on the East Coast, we now know that it's not possible because it's in the same place. We can tell that. We can't build patterns if we don't have the data. But what's really great about modern IT modernization and cloud technologies is that the same data that is then collated for fraud, waste, and abuse purposes can then be sort of obfuscated and abstracted quite a bit, but then offered up in a single source of data to research institutions that want to understand sickness and endemic diseases in the United States. Snowflake was very successful doing this as part of the CDC's efforts with COVID-19 in the state of California. We've also been very, very successful in data sharing for research purposes related to COVID. So sort of all in one, it's the fraud, waste, and abuse, it's data collaboration, it's all of that great stuff all in one topic, Luke.
Right, sort of pulling it all together and focusing on sort of one system of record, really important, right, in regards to systemic waste, fraud, and abuse, which is, it's a big deal, and every agency has that, right? I think Nancy started the show and talked about that a little bit. We're going to take another short break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We're talking about IT modernization. We're just getting ready to start talking about priorities. I'm going to ask Nancy, you to start us off. Give us the top priority that you are focusing on this year at the IRS.
Thank you. I'll get right to it. Although we have lots of priorities like building a strong team, moving from paper to digital, protecting our data through cybersecurity, and strengthening our technology. You all have probably read the news though. The IRS is currently facing a large inventory of tax returns waiting to continue processing due to several factors, including the pandemic. Right now, our top priority is digitalization, moving away from paper and figuring out how to do that in flight. In fact, we have an inventory of more than 10 million electronically filed returns that contained errors and require a manual review of the return information so that we can continue processing it. We're achieving our improvements in the digitalization space through our top priority of our enterprise case management system and modernizing our core tax processing system where your data is stored, the individual master file. Both of those are foundational to helping IRS manage taxpayer accounts, ensuring timely service to our customers. I won't go into our other top priorities that I mentioned previously, but I would say data all in all the time in an electronic fashion.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. John, Verizon, top priority for you this year.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. You know, when you think about the number of things happening in the ecosystem, you need to find a top priority that can really help to impact all of these items at the same time. So Nancy mentioned security. We've talked a little bit about EIS. Soldenise, you mentioned mobile applications, right? Everything moving to the edge. So I think really the biggest priority for Verizon is how can we continue to build out and modernize the 5G ecosystem and the infrastructure that's providing these technologies so that everyone can take more advantage of this service. You know, 5G is not just a faster smartphone. It's not just being able to download a movie on your device quicker. It's truly the foundational element that allows a lot of these technology and innovative solutions to really come to life. It enables movement from, you know, device to device. It enables applications to perform better. It gives us access to data in places we never thought we would have access to data before. And in many cases, 5G is actually starting to transform what we would have thought of as traditional, maybe even wired infrastructure into more of a wireless environment. It's scalable, it's more consumable, and it's something that we can really accelerate timeline to deployment for a number of agencies. So you've seen, you know, a lot of things in the news from the end of this year, early this year around deployment of C-band and really pushing 5G forward. That is a critical priority for us, is to get these services out to expand this ecosystem and continue to push evolution into that 5G world.
5G all the time, everywhere. Jamie, how about U.S. Patent and Trade Office? Number one priority for you this year.
Well, Luke, I love the way you brought it up because priorities are essential for operations. The thing about the government is compliance, working with lawyers, is the fact that lawyers don't have to actually execute, but operational people have to actually take these ideas, these rules and regulations, and figure out which one to do first. Because if you did everything, you'd be doing nothing. So I always have a top three, but you asked for the top one. And if anybody knows me, cyber. And why is that? One of the things about the Patent and Trade Office that I'm learning over the last 3 years, we have a problem with fraud. We've had a problem forever with fraud. Here's a little statistic. 15% of all apparel sold within the United States, handbags, clothes, whatever it might be, 15% are fraudulent. They're actually fakes. So I am trying to get those tools in the hands of the examiners, in the hands of the operational folks who enforce our intellectual property to ensure that fraud goes down. And it's a solemn duty. Cyber. I'm sort of Jekyll and Hyde in that way too for data. Before it gets to us, it's open and public. When it's in our care, that patent pending is so sacred. We have to prevent anybody from getting it. However, when it's awarded or rejected, we have to make sure the whole world knows and knows why. So I'm black and white, I'm Jekyll and Hyde. We have to be really secure. One of the big things too is pendency. We got to get this through the chute quicker with great quality. Cyber, kill the fraud.
Gotcha. Very important life cycle there. Interesting as well. Nick, Pure Storage, number one priority for you.
Luke, extending scale to address growth in data, the interconnectivity between on-premises and commercial cloud, and improving the user experience to make the underlying technology invisible, and the acquisition model to make it easy for customers to adopt and sustain a modern data infrastructure. We call this the modern data experience, facilitating digital transformation, and it is and it remains our number one priority. And as was stated earlier, modernization is the journey. It's ongoing and continuous. So innovation in those areas will continue to drive how we develop and deploy technology going forward to support our customers.
We really do appreciate that. Scale it and also make it available from an acquisition standpoint. Soldenise, number one priority for you over at INA this year.
Yes. So you say one, let me work up to that one, Luke. So agile transformation and continuing to mature in that journey. customer service and the user experience and enhancing that, leveraging data in order for Intel analysts to be able to produce more timely intelligence products. Also, our cybersecurity executive order, that's something that we're all prioritizing, zero trust, shifting security to the left and what that actually means to support agility. Also moving to the cloud, continuing on our cloud transformation, which we've had a lot of progress in, but it's also a journey. And I say all these things because, like Jamie was saying earlier, it is a mindset. It is managing the people and the change. So I think my number one priority would be kind of bucketed in three different foundational aspects, which is investing in the people. The way we do technology is not the way we used to do technology. So really investing in the people and helping to manage that change. Also investing in creating the culture that we need to create in order to be able to do IT differently. And then finally, the partnering. Partnering, we are the enablers of our mission. However, we have to work with a lot of different people in order to deliver successfully. So strengthening our partnerships across all of those different stakeholders. So IT modernization, it is a journey, absolutely. I think it's the people behind the journey that make the success possible.
A constellation of activities going on there all at once. So hats off to you, Nicholas. Number one priority for Snowflake.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. So, listening to everybody else talk here, data, we're all in, talking about 5G technology. We're talking about cybersecurity. We're talking about all that stuff. And the reason we're talking about those things is because every agency that's on this call and in this country is focused on their mission, but their mission is not solo, right? You have a mission, but you have a joint purpose. One of my favorite stories was the USDA uses NASA imagery to count cattle. Like when I found that out, I had to stop for like 5 cups of coffee. Like that kind of collaboration in the government is absolutely amazing. That's our top priority, to keep driving those multi-cloud, multi-agency data collaboration. Every time we build an agency sharing with another one, an angel gets its wings.
Fantastic. And we really do appreciate all the effort. Well, we're going to wrap it up with this last question that I love to ask. John, we're going to start with you at Verizon. Tell us what it's going to look like in 2 to 3 years. You're talking about 5G. Is 5G going to be fully rolled out at that point? Is there going to be a 6 or 7G? What's it going to look like? What's the experience going to be 2 to 3 years from now?
Yeah, it's such an interesting question. I think what I would say is that likely what I hope everyone will notice is that you won't notice anything at all. I think 5G will become, Nick, you may have said it earlier, that invisible layer underneath so much of what becomes our daily life. When we think about 5G and you think about what it will ultimately empower, I think about it in more of a smart city, smart community, smart building, smart campus type of an environment. How do we start to get more and more of the information pushed to the edge? How do we start to get more and more connectivity into all of the devices and all of the things around us to help enable simple decisions, to help enable citizen safety, to help enable things like trash collection or traffic flow or zero fatalities across a particular city or a particular campus. So I think what you'll see is more and more invisible connectivity that empowers us to make better decisions, empowers us to move information faster, and really helps us to fuel more mission outcomes and more citizen and user experience in ways that we have not really even thought about yet today, right? When you think about 4G, when it was launched, we didn't have a lot of the technology we take for granted today. I think 5G and inevitable ongoing technology innovations will help push us further and further down that road.
Fantastic. Really unlocking a lot of capability there. We're all excited about that. Nick, how about a Pure Storage? What's it going to look like 2 to 3 years from now?
So great question, Luke. We're seeing some fundamental changes in how technology is leveraged and how we deploy capability to customers and particularly to end users. So, we're going to obviously need increasing scale, performance, and ease of use to support digital transformation and IT modernization, to drive a fundamental transformation in digital experience. And this is going to be driven largely by containerization and the implementation of AI and machine learning, and enabled by the rollout of 5G capability. So there will be more bandwidth, more data, more things creating and consuming data. What this is going to require, just for everybody to be able to keep up with it and leverage it properly, is simpler applications, more scalability and portability across infrastructure and location, and largely invisible to the user. And then a mindset change as well, to Soldenise's point. It's regarding IT as a portfolio of services and capabilities, as opposed to a collection of components. And the last and biggest challenge that's probably not appreciated is the shift in mindset in the acquisition community. It's slower, it's bounded rigidly by statute and regulation, but the cloud consumption model threw the entire acquisition community for a loop, because for literally centuries, the government bought things and owned them outright. So the whole idea of subscribing to something, not even leasing it, just blew people's minds. And it took 8 or 9 years, and we'll give the cloud service providers a tremendous amount of credit for this, 8 or 9 years of cooperative work to figure out, how can the government acquire things and use them that it does not own? Is it safe? Is it secure to do that? Could it potentially compromise data? Will it compromise operations? I think that we're going to simply regard that mechanism of acquisition as de rigueur. But that's fundamentally transforming also how the government can adopt technology, modernize, and then sustain that capability. So, portfolio of services that addresses capability needs as opposed to boxes that fill data centers, but acquired in a way that is really novel for government customers to approach.
Consumption-based capability. When I used to have these discussions with the acquisition folks, I'd say, hey, look, we buy electricity by the drink every day, so I know we can do this. Snowflake, Nicholas, talk to me about what's it going to look like in a couple of years. You're leapfrogging, trying to stay ahead of this curve of collecting all this data, analyzing it. What do we see in 2 years?
Well, so we decided to call me Nicholas for this. So I'm the extended version of Nick Zaki. So I'm going to continue his chain of thought there. I'm kind of like part 2 of his response, because I think, when I think about where we're headed and what I want to see happen in a couple of years, confident accomplishment is kind of the buzz phrase that I'm going to use for this. And because of this, every agency that collaborates with another agency and gets the right data from the right people to make that right decision, that makes everybody better when that happens. And that's something that Snowflake necessarily has to do. We're an enabling technology, but the policy side of this and the people side of this, we're already on board. This is already happening. We're just sort of a great enabling technology on top of that. But the other side of that too, Luke, is transparency. When I have all of the data that I use to make a decision, I can be more transparent with the citizenry to tell them why I made that decision, or why I gave that guidance, or why I didn't choose in a certain way. So I think better transparency, better decision-making, better data management and operations. That's where we're going to be.
Fantastic. We all look forward to that. Denise, you talked about a lot of different things there. If I'm a freshly minted intelligence analyst or somebody sitting in a fusion center in a state, what's my experience going to be in a couple of years?
So my vision for the next 2 to 5 years would be, we are going to cultivate a culture of extraordinary leadership across the different cross-functional areas that really contribute to the successful delivery of mission enablement. I believe that is going to result in stronger partnerships. I believe it's going to result in agility across a CIO organization. Again, that takes a lot, the business management aspect of it, the cyber aspect of it, the data, as well as the infrastructure side of it, and the services side of it. I believe we will be in a better place to leverage data as an asset. We will be in a better place to deploy systems more rapidly and securely. And near and dear to my heart, because I've been in the Intel community for so long now, I believe that we are going to see more mobility as it pertains to our classified systems and classified processing, especially for what I consider our warfighters in the field as it pertains to the Department of Homeland Security. Back to you, Luke.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's such a barrier to push through, and it's such an enabler to have that type of capability into the operator's hands. So hats off to you. Jamie, if I'm filing a patent in 2 to 3 years, what's that experience going to look like? What's the dream 3 years from now?
So the vision is better, cheaper, and faster. Obviously, we have pendency goals, And those things are the time that you submit to the time it's awarded or rejected. Since I've been there 3 years, it went from 22 months now down to 18 and a half months. Metrics count. So in 3 years, can I get that down to 12 months? I'm hoping. At the same time, you don't want to lose the quality. Now, 3 years is a great planning horizon. If people tell you that they can do a 5-year plan, I will call the flag. Sorry, it is truly wrong, because every 3 years is when technology changes. So I've been through a generation of technology at the PTO. 3-year planning horizons are great. And when we think about it, I started with hybrid and I'm going to end with hybrid. At the end of 3 years, we will have figured out what we're going to do in the hybrid workforce. This has ramifications for commercial real estate, the use of our land, the ability for people now not to be concentrated in a single city, but rather to be spread out throughout, such that we're not as vulnerable as we once were to bombing and terrorism and so forth. It's an amazing time to be alive. And what I'm saying is we will look completely different in 3 years. And what we're doing right now is affecting that. I could go on forever, especially pushing that button of procurement. We have to challenge the status quo. It doesn't make sense, the rules that we're operating under. There's no sense of urgency. There's no speed to procurement in the spirit of, well, we have to give everybody a chance. Yes, at the same time, these frivolous protests are killing our sense of urgency. We got to change the procurement system. You can tell that it pushed my button. So I'll be part 3 on that. Change procurement, challenge the status quo. Back to you, Luke.
Thank you very much, and really do appreciate the passion there. Nancy, you've been at the IRS for a just incredible journey, doing a lot of different roles there. You talked at the top of the show about sort of referencing what you'd like to see, what you're imagining, what you're going to realize in a couple of years. Tell us what that looks like.
I was trying to recover from Jamie sharing that CIOs have a BS flag, right? I mean, Sol Denise and I just kind of chuckled because I was thinking I was the only one who got one of those when I became CIO. So as you said, I have been with the Internal Revenue Service for a long career. And I joke with my team that I think I've had every job there is in IRS. I'm thrilled to be the CIO now. My vision is a little different. My vision is about our people. We will have technology professionals that have a variety of skills work when we need them to work from where they want to work. Let's face it, our careers and our lives in this day and age are integrated. We talk about integrating technology. I talk about integrating how we deliver technology. So my vision is a very, very strong workforce with many skills, delivering the work that they want to, and having contracting partners on that journey with us. And I think everybody knows that the IRS has a lot of really complex technology, complex tax rules, complex processes, right? No matter where we are, our environments are complex. We support a lot of different types of business functions within the IRS, external agencies like the Department of Education, HHS, international tax agencies, FEMA, and others. We will build a strong workforce where we need the people, where they want to be. We'll continue modernization all the time. If we can talk about changing the customer experience, we will continue to do that. We will continue to move to a paperless IRS operation. We'll focus on modernizing as fast as we can with the funding that we're given. We'll create greater self-service options and continue to improve our technology environment. We'll move away from talking about becoming modernized to being a modern technology shop delivering modern services. And if I haven't said it yet, I'll remind everybody, Internal Revenue Service IT is hiring, and we are one of the coolest places to work. We have every challenge we can imagine and every opportunity. We are in the news, right? Doesn't matter why you're in the news, as long as you're in the news. So I'll make my pitch for workforce of the future and what a great place the IRS is to work. From a career civil servant who's been here a very long time, it is a fantastic place to work.
Well, hats off to you, and thank you very much. And thank all of you for taking the time out of your busy services, busy schedule, and providing all those goods and services, and just serving, right? Each and every one of you doing everything that you do every single day. I'd also like to thank the sponsors for supporting us on the show. I'd like to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make our program so successful and enjoyable. And most of all, I'd like to thank the listening audience out there that tune in every month. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network.